And there's an argument that's gaining currency within the churches, and quite mainstream churches. This is where the importance of history comes into play, incidentally, that we touched on before lunch. And it goes something like this. The argument is Britain was once a Christian country. Things like migration and secularism have changed that. We no longer have any shared values. Therefore, we need to once again reinstitute those shared values, and they should be Christian ones, and the churches to decide what those Christian values are. I mean, it's very general, it's a generalization, but that's broadly the ideology, the message, the approach that's coming across, and it's coming across loud and clear in the context of faith schools, church schools, and the education system. Listen to this, and I'm going to ask if anyone can tell me who said this. Okay. Christianity has been at the heart of the history of this nation. British history, customs, and ethos have been gradually shaped by Christianity. This is someone writing in a newspaper, by the way, the Mail. A recent correspondence suggested that, like it or not, Britishness is rooted in the Christian religion. Consider our national anthem, beginning with the word God. Consider the English flag, designed using the Christian cross. Christianity is the tapestry upon which our country's heritage was woven. All of this is lost to those who would deny Christianity any place in our nation today. The message is clear. Wake up, Christian England. Anyone want to volunteer who might have written that? I don't hear the answer.
Manly Phillips.
Could well have been. It was, in fact, this will come as a shock, it was the Archbishop of York, John Sentamu. Now, John, yes, absolutely, I'm happy to send you the link. It's online. The Archbishop of York is a campaigner against racism. Absolutely, he's had his house firebombed as a result. He has suffered for his stand against racism. This is the dilemma that the church finds itself in when it's advancing this kind of argument. And at the heart, I think, is a conceptual confusion and a difficulty that the church faces. On the one hand, the church is advancing the idea that at the last census, 72% of the country self-identified as Christian. So it's appealing to the idea of the Christian nation, a kind of cultural Christianity. And this is what the BNP is kind of latching onto. At the same time, of course, we know that of the more confessional Christianity, the 5 to 10% of the population maybe that go to church regularly, there's a much smaller amount. The church is caught between this cultural Christianity and this confessional Christianity. And of course, that takes you in two different directions over church schools. If 1/3 of primaries are faith schools, 1/4 of primaries are church schools. If we take the first approach, that Christianity is cultural, and about 72% of the population self-identify culturally as Christian, then there aren't enough church schools. But if we take the latter definition, that it's about 5% of the population who actually are observant, then there are way too many church schools for the population. And this is particularly salient for churches who discriminate in admissions and employment. There aren't enough actually Christian head teachers, confessional Christian head teachers, to go round for them to routinely discriminate in employment. And certainly there aren't enough Christian children to go around for them to discriminate in admissions, so you get a big difference. But it's perhaps inevitable, therefore, that faith schools will be teaching a kind of cultural Christianity to justify their existence, which does go some way to aligning Christianity with Britishness. And this will be extremely problematic. I'd like to commend the Runnymede Trust report, I think was it 2006, 2008? 2008, Right to Divide, which said, faith schools are much more effective at educating for a single vision than they are at opening dialogue about a shared vision. Faith schools are much more effective at educating for a single vision than they are at opening dialogue about a shared vision. And this is, for me, the big challenge. Faith schools present themselves with a set of values which are presented on a take-it-or-leave-it basis. They want community cohesion, but they really want it on their terms. And of course, there are parallels here with what Ben said before lunch. Thanks very much, 5 minutes. About 60% of Jewish households being kosher, but only perhaps 20% observing to Jewish beliefs. The same kind of tension between cultural and confessional, perhaps. So any challenge to the idea that their vision must change is often seen in very, very negative terms, and it's seen as an assault on Christianity itself. And what we've seen is increasingly a persecution narrative developing within Christianity in the UK. We saw it, in the British Airways Crossrail. We're seeing it sometimes in schools, the bed and breakfast owners refusing to have a gay couple stay with them. Melanie Phillips writing in the Mail about that, talking about Christian persecution and marginalisation. Interestingly, the debate is around symbols such as crosses, which have never been a requirement of the Christian faith, but Christians feeling now they have to display them. Parallels here with the veil, perhaps. The cross, of course, has also been seen as a fashion accessory, but now increasingly seen as a confessional statement. And this narrative is also being played out in church schools. There's a feeling that church schools are under attack. Many are resisting reform, which mean that they would have to open up schools to members of their community and end discrimination in employment. And I think we're going to see increasingly church schools therefore become a battleground. So there are two really questions that I want to leave in the context of what we're looking at today. What is the extent to which church schools are encouraging or reinforcing the ideology of Christian Britain and a cultural Christianity? But secondly, more importantly, what's the alternative? How do we live well together? How do we make our schools inclusive communities? And I mean inclusion, not integration. Inclusion allows the values of a school to change, particularly by the people who come and are included in the school. Integration says that people have to come to the school on the school's terms. I propose perhaps the way forward is to empower pupils more fully, and that's a proposal that the Runnymede Trust have made, to open up our schools more widely, to allow the pupils who attend the school to shape its ethos together, to find their identity in a shared identity. That would be, for me, the ultimate free school. I'll just finish with my own example, but it comes from actually from disability. My son is a wheelchair user, and he attends our local church school. I was a governor at the school. All three of my children have been there. And we had a big long battle to get him in there. Eventually we did. But what we've seen is, as he's been in that school, we've seen the school change, and we've seen the school become more inclusive. A little example. There was a sports day in the summer, and his class lined up for the 100 metres, and they all ran down the track. And my son was kind of left, his powered wheelchair doesn't go as fast. All the kids have finished the race, and he's halfway down the track. And everyone, the whole school noticed this, and suddenly they start cheering for my son, Samuel, chanting his name, Samuel, 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 and he finishes the race, way behind everyone else. But suddenly the race becomes about something different. It doesn't become about winning the race anymore. It becomes about taking part. And it's only when we allow our schools to be shaped by the children who attend, when we become inclusive, that we really will see a change in values. I'll leave it there. Thank you.